I was staring at my daughter's iPad when my entire world inverted. Not collapsed. Inverted. Like one of those optical illusions where the staircase suddenly goes the wrong direction and you can't unsee it. Emma had left it on the kitchen counter that Tuesday morning, battery dead, and I'd plugged it in to charge before her online geometry class. The screen lit up, and there it was. A message preview from my wife's iCloud account, still logged in from when she'd helped Emma with homework last week. Can't wait to feel you again. Greg's taking the kids to his mom's this weekend. The sender name read, Apartment 7B. My coffee mug stopped halfway to my mouth. Greg. That's me. Gregory Whitman, 41, Senior Project Manager at Caldwell Engineering, married to Jessica Whitman for 14 years, father to Emma and Lucas. I take the kids to my mother's house in Harrisburg every third weekend. Have done so for years. The message was from yesterday. Monday, October 16th, 2023, at 2:47 p.m. I set down the mug with the kind of precision you use when handling explosives. My hands didn't shake. Not yet. That would come later. Right then, my body had gone into some kind of analytical mode, the same state I enter when a $1 million construction project hits a critical failure point. Assess, document, solve. I tapped the screen. Face ID didn't work. It was Emma's device, but I knew her passcode. Every parent does, whether they admit it or not. 6 attempts later, cycling through birthdays and favorite numbers, I was in 0704, Jessica's birthday. The Messages app opened to that conversation thread. Apartment 7B had a contact photo, a picture of a door with brass numbers. Not a person. Clever. If the kids borrowed the iPad, they'd see nothing suspicious. I scrolled up. 3 months of messages. June, July, August, September, October. Hundreds of them. The early ones were cautious, almost businesslike. Thanks for helping with the boxes. Then warmer. You're so easy to talk to. Then explicit enough that my breakfast threatened to come back up. The physics of betrayal are interesting. You'd think rage would hit first, but it doesn't. First comes this crystalline clarity, this hyper-focus where you notice everything. The way the October sunlight slanted through the kitchen blinds. The smell of Emma's strawberry Pop-Tart in the toaster. The sound of Lucas upstairs, probably building another Lego spaceship instead of getting dressed for school. Normal life, continuing like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I took screenshots. 47 of them, methodical, scrolling through the entire conversation. Sent them to my email. Then to a cloud storage account Jessica didn't know about, the one I used for work documents. Then I cleared the iPad's recently deleted folder, backed out of messages, and locked the screen. The shaking started when I stood up. Jessica was at her Pilates class. She went every Tuesday and Thursday morning, 9 to 10:30. Except now, I was wondering if there'd ever been a Pilates class. Our apartment complex, Riverside Terrace in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, had a fitness center. She'd switched to a boutique studio 6 months ago. June. Right when the messages started. Apartment 7B. We lived in 4C. I walked to the window and looked down at the parking lot. Jessica's white Honda CR-V was gone. My black Ford Explorer sat in its designated spot. Tuesday morning, 8:47 a.m., and I was supposed to be in a project meeting at the office in 40 minutes. Instead, I was learning that my wife had been sleeping with someone in our own building. The efficiency of it was almost impressive. No hotel receipts, no suspicious mileage, no unexplained charges on credit cards. Just an elevator ride and a walk down the hall. My phone buzzed. Text from Jessica. Can you grab milk on your way home? Also, Emma needs poster board for her science project. I stared at that message for 30 seconds, the mundane domesticity of it. The casual assumption that I'd comply, That I was still the reliable husband who handled errands and remembered poster board. I typed back, "Sure." Then I opened my contacts and scrolled to a name I hadn't called in years. David Porter. We'd gone to Penn State together, roommates for 3 years. He'd gone to law school while I'd gotten my engineering degree. Last I knew, he was practicing family law in Philadelphia, an hour and a half away. The phone rang 4 times. "Greg Whitman," David's voice came through, surprised and pleased. "Man, it's been what, 3 years?" "4," I said. My voice sounded normal. Eerily normal. "Since your wedding." "David, I need a lawyer." The pleasure in his tone evaporated. "What happened?" "My wife's having an affair with someone in our apartment building. I have documentation. I need to know what to do next." Silence. Then, "Are you somewhere private?" I looked around the empty kitchen. Upstairs, Lucas was singing the theme song to whatever cartoon he was watching instead of getting dressed. Emma was probably still asleep, teenager that she'd become at 13. "Private enough." "Don't confront her," David said immediately. "Don't tell her you know. Don't change your behavior. Can you get to my office today?" I thought about the project meeting, the deadline review, the client presentation I'd been preparing for 2 weeks. "Yes." 11 o'clock, I'll clear my schedule. "Greg, bring everything. Bank statements, tax returns, property deeds, retirement account statements. Everything you can get your hands on before she knows you're looking. Okay?" "And Greg, I'm sorry, man. I'm really sorry." I hung up and stood there in my kitchen, in my apartment, in my life that had just revealed itself to be a stage set with hidden doors. Upstairs, Lucas called out, "Dad, I can't find my blue shirt." "Check the dryer," I called back, and my voice still sounded normal. That's when I realized I could do this. I could pretend. I could be the husband, the father, the reliable Greg Whitman, while simultaneously dismantling everything from the inside. The drive to Philadelphia took 93 minutes. I counted. I told Jessica I had an unexpected client meeting in Harrisburg, a lie that came out smooth as glass. She barely looked up from her laptop when I said it, just nodded and reminded me to pick up milk on the way home. The same milk she'd texted about yesterday. The mundane continuity of it felt like a separate betrayal. David's office occupied the 14th floor of a steel and glass building downtown. The receptionist, a woman in her 60s with reading glasses on a chain, smiled warmly when I gave my name. "Mr. Whitman, David's expecting you. Conference room B, straight back." The conference room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. David stood when I entered, closing the door behind me. "Greg?" We shook hands. He'd put on weight since his wedding. Not much, but enough that his shirt collar looked tight. His hair had started receding at the temples. 4 years of marriage, I thought. 4 years versus my 14. "Thanks for seeing me so quickly." "Sit." He gestured to the table. "Coffee?" "I'm good." He sat across from me, hands folded. Professional. The friend I'd lived with junior year, who'd helped me move furniture and split pizza at 2 a.m., had been replaced by something more efficient. I appreciated it. "Let's start with what you've got." I pulled out my phone, opened the secure folder, and slid it across the table. He scrolled through the screenshots in silence. His expression didn't change. After several minutes, he set the phone down. "October 16th. Yesterday?" "Yesterday morning." "And she doesn't know you found these?" "No." "You're certain?" "Positive. I verified the iPad was locked when I left it. Face ID reactivated. She texted me about milk and poster board at 10:23. Normal." David nodded slowly. "Good. That's good?" He picked up the phone again, scrolling back to the beginning. "June through October. Consistent pattern. Same contact. Physical evidence of location. This door number photo is excellent. Apartment 7B, 3 floors up from us. Jesus. He looked up. You know who it is? Not yet. Don't find out. The words landed flat. I stared at him. What? Don't find out. Don't go knocking on doors. Don't stake out the hallway. Don't do anything that could be construed as threatening or unstable. He leaned forward. I know you, Greg. I know how your brain works. You want to solve this like an engineering problem. Identify all variables. But right now, you knowing his identity doesn't help you. It only creates risk. Risk of what? Of you doing something stupid. Of her claiming you're dangerous. Of compromising your position. He tapped the phone. This is clean. You found it accidentally, documented it responsibly, and you're proceeding rationally. The moment you start surveillance or confrontation, you become the bad guy in the narrative. I absorbed this. The logic was sound, even if it felt wrong. Okay. Okay. Okay, I won't look for him. David studied me for a moment, then nodded. Pennsylvania is an equitable distribution state, not community property. That means the court divides marital assets fairly, not necessarily 50-50. I know. What you might not know is that fault can influence distribution. Adultery is still legally relevant here, especially with this level of documentation. He gestured to the phone. The fact that it's been ongoing for months, that it's local, that there's clear deception, all of that matters. So what's the timeline? First, we gather everything. Financial documents, bank statements, retirement accounts, investment portfolios, tax returns for the last 3 years, mortgage papers, car titles, credit card statements, everything. I can get most of that today. Do it quietly. Make copies. Don't remove originals. If she asks, you're organizing for tax planning or refinancing or some other boring reason. He pulled a legal pad toward him and started writing. Second, we establish a baseline of marital assets. I need to know what we're protecting. The apartment is rental. Both cars are paid off, titled jointly. We have about $43,000 in savings, another $120 in retirement accounts split between us. No significant debt beyond monthly credit cards. Kids' college funds? $18,000 for Emma, $12,000 for Lucas. He wrote it all down. Good. That's straightforward. Third, we need to talk about custody. My chest tightened. I want primary. Based on what? Based on she's been lying to them for months. Based on she's been meeting someone in our building while they're at school. Based on, Greg. His voice was gentle but firm. I need legal basis, not emotional basis. Has she been neglectful? Has she put them in danger? Is there any evidence of impaired parenting? I forced myself to think. No. Does she have a history of instability? Substance abuse? Mental health crises? No. Then primary custody is going to be a fight, and it's a fight you might not win. He held up a hand before I could respond. Pennsylvania courts favor shared custody unless there's clear reason otherwise. And a judge isn't going to remove kids from their mother because she had an affair. That's not how it works. So she gets to destroy our family and keep the kids. She doesn't keep them. You both keep them. 50-50 is the likely outcome. Maybe 60-40 in your favor if we can demonstrate her schedule disruption or deception created instability. He paused. But if you push for full custody without grounds, you look vindictive. That hurts you. I sat back. The chair was leather, expensive. Through the window behind David, I could see office workers in adjacent buildings, small figures at desks, living their normal lives. What about the apartment? Rental, you said? Yeah, lease is in both names. Then neither of you can force the other out until the lease ends or you both agree. When's it up? March. That's 5 months. You'll need to decide if you're staying or going, but don't make that move yet. He flipped to a new page on the legal pad. Here's what happens next. You gather documents, you maintain absolute normalcy, and I mean absolute. You're not cold, you're not distant, you're not suddenly super attentive, you're exactly who you were last week. For how long? Until we're ready to file. 2 weeks, maybe 3. We need time to build the financial picture, establish temporary custody arrangements, and prepare the petition. He met my eyes. This is going to feel impossible. You're going to be living with someone you now know is betraying you, pretending everything is fine. But if you break early, if you confront her before we're ready, you lose strategic advantage. Strategic advantage. Yes. Right now, she thinks she's safe. She's comfortable. She's not moving money, not consulting lawyers, not preparing a defense. The moment she knows you know, all of that changes. She gets her own attorney, assets start shifting, stories start forming. He leaned back. You get one chance to set the terms of this. Don't waste it. I looked at my phone, still on the table between us. 47 messages. 3 months of lies. A contact labeled with an apartment number instead of a name. What if she's already preparing? What if she's planning to leave? Is there any indication of that? I thought about her text yesterday. Milk and poster board. Her reminder about my mother's visit this weekend. The way she'd kissed me goodbye this morning, distracted but routine. No. Then she's not. People don't plan to leave and simultaneously maintain domestic normalcy. She's compartmentalizing. Affair in one box, family in another. It's common. How common? Very. He said it without judgment. Most people who cheat aren't trying to blow up their lives. They're trying to have both. The family stability and the affair excitement. They think they can manage it indefinitely. Until they can't. Until they can't, he agreed. The hardest part wasn't the lying. It was the waiting. Wednesday morning, I woke up at 6:15 a.m. to Jessica's alarm. She rolled over, kissed my shoulder, the same casual intimacy we'd shared for 14 years, and padded to the bathroom. I heard the shower start. Heard her humming something I didn't recognize. I stared at the ceiling and thought about apartment 7B. David's warning had been explicit. Do not investigate. Do not confront. Do not deviate from your normal routine in any way. But he didn't understand what it was like, living 3 floors below the person who'd been sleeping with your wife. Walking past that door every time I took the stairs. Knowing that behind that brass number 7 and that brass letter B, someone had touched Jessica in ways that... I stopped that thought. Shut it down the way I'd shut down failing projects at work. No use analyzing structural damage after the building's already collapsed. The shower stopped. Jessica emerged in a towel, hair wrapped up, face flushed from the heat. You're awake early, she said. Couldn't sleep. Still thinking about the Riverside project? I'd mentioned a work problem at dinner the night before. Something about load-bearing calculations. I couldn't remember the details now, but Jessica had nodded sympathetically, asked if I wanted to talk about it. The performance had been flawless on both sides. Yeah, I said. I'll figure it out. She smiled, dropped the towel, started getting dressed with her back to me, completely comfortable, completely natural. I watched her pull on underwear, clasp her bra, step into jeans. Ordinary movements. Thousands of times I'd watched this exact routine. How many times had she done this same routine before driving to apartment 7B? I've got Pilates at 9, she said, pulling a sweater over her head. Should be back by 10:30. Need anything while I'm out? We're good. She left the bedroom. I heard her downstairs talking to Emma about the science project, reminding Lucas to brush his teeth. Normal mother sounds. Normal wife sounds. I got up and got dressed. At work, I couldn't focus. The Riverside project files sat open on my computer screen. Actual files this time, not the excuse I'd invented. but the numbers wouldn't resolve into anything meaningful. Load calculations, stress tests, material specifications. All of it felt abstract, disconnected from reality. My phone buzzed at 9:47 a.m. Running late. Class went over. Home by 11. I stared at the message, wondered if she was actually at a Pilates class or if class went over meant something else entirely. Wondered if apartment 7B was texting her right now, asking when she'd arrive. Wondered if... Stop. I set the phone down. Opened the financial documents David had requested. Bank statements going back 2 years. Credit card records. Mortgage paperwork. Investment accounts. The architecture of our shared life, reduced to spreadsheets and PDFs. The joint checking account showed regular withdrawals. Nothing suspicious. Groceries, gas, kids' activities. Jessica had always handled the household finances. I'd trusted her with it. Trust. Interesting word. I kept working through the documents, found our savings account, $47,000, accumulated slowly over the years. Found the 529 plans for Emma and Lucas. Found the mortgage statement showing we had 12 years left on a 15-year note. Found a credit card I didn't recognize. It was in Jessica's name only. Opened in July, 2 months ago. The statements came to her email, not our shared household account. I only found it because she'd saved a PDF copy in our shared cloud storage, probably by accident. July through September charges, $340 at a boutique hotel in Harrisburg, $215 at a restaurant I'd never heard of, $180 at another hotel, this one in Lancaster, $95 at a wine bar downtown. October had only 2 charges so far, $67 at a coffee shop and $130 at something called Riverside Florist. I sat very still. The Riverside Florist charge was dated October 10th, 6 days ago. I tried to remember if Jessica had brought flowers home recently. Couldn't recall any. Which meant my office phone rang. I answered automatically. Greg Whitman. Mr. Whitman, this is Andrea Calloway from First National. I'm calling about your appointment tomorrow at 2 o'clock to discuss your mortgage refinancing options. I hadn't made any appointment. I think there's been a mistake, I said carefully. I didn't schedule anything. A pause. Papers shuffling. I have a note here that Jessica Whitman called last week to set this up. She said you'd both be coming in to discuss refinancing the property at 2247 Riverside Terrace, apartment 4C. The room tilted slightly. Not much. Just enough to notice. When exactly did she call? Let me check. October 11th, last Wednesday. She mentioned you were interested in pulling equity out for some home renovations. We'd never discussed refinancing, never discussed renovations, never discussed pulling equity out of anything. I'll need to reschedule, I said. Work conflict. I'll call back. I hung up before she could respond. I texted David. Found a secret credit card and evidence she's trying to refinance the house. Can she do that without me? His response came in under a minute. Not without your signature. But she can start the process. This is good for your case. Shows financial deception. Forward me everything. I forwarded the credit card statements. Forwarded the screenshots of the bank appointment confirmation email I found in Jessica's account. Sat at my desk and tried to understand what I was looking at. Jessica wasn't just having an affair. She was planning something. The credit card, the refinancing attempt, the flowers sent to apartment 7B. These weren't the actions of someone content with a casual arrangement. These were the actions of someone building towards something. My phone buzzed again. David. Don't react. Don't change anything. This actually helps us. Keep gathering information. I looked at the time. 11:23 a.m. Jessica would be home by now, probably making lunch, probably texting apartment 7B about when they could meet next, probably planning whatever she was planning. I opened my work calendar and blocked off tomorrow at 2 p.m. typed in First National Bank as the appointment. If Jessica checked, and she might, she'd see I was planning to attend the refinancing meeting. Then I called the bank back. Andrea Calloway. Hi, this is Greg Whitman. I called earlier about the appointment tomorrow. Yes, Mr. Whitman. Were you able to resolve your schedule conflict? Actually, I can make it work. 2 o'clock tomorrow. I'll be there. Wonderful. Should I confirm with Mrs. Whitman as well? No need. I'll let her know. I hung up and stared at my computer screen. The Riverside project files were still open. Load-bearing calculations, stress tests, critical failure points. I understood those. You could model them, predict them, prevent them. But this required a different kind of engineering. That evening, Jessica made spaghetti. Lucas built a Lego tower at the kitchen table while Emma did homework at the counter. Normal family dinner? Normal family sounds. How was Pilates? I asked. Good. Brutal, actually. New instructor really pushed us. Jessica twirled pasta on her fork. My legs are going to hurt tomorrow. You should take it easy. Probably, but I like the challenge. She smiled at me. Reminds me I'm still capable of hard things. I smiled back. You've always been capable. Thanks, babe. She reached across and squeezed my hand. Her wedding ring caught the light. White gold, small diamond, 14 years of wear visible in the tiny scratches on the band. I squeezed back. After dinner, after the kids were in bed, Jessica curled up next to me on the couch. We watched some show about home renovations. People tearing down walls, exposing the structure underneath, rebuilding from the foundation up. We should do something like that, Jessica said during a commercial. Update the kitchen, maybe. New countertops. That's expensive. We could refinance, pull some equity out. The house has appreciated a lot since we bought it. There it was, the setup, the casual mention designed to sound spontaneous. Maybe, I said, we'd have to run the numbers. I actually called First National last week, just to ask about options. They said we could get a really good rate right now. Oh yeah? Yeah, they want to meet with us. I was thinking maybe tomorrow afternoon. I know it's short notice, but what time? 2 o'clock. Can you make that work? I pretended to think about it. Pulled out my phone, checked my calendar like I didn't already know exactly what was there. I've got a meeting at 1:30, but I can probably wrap it up early. Yeah, I can do 2. Jessica's face lit up. Genuine happiness. Relief, maybe. Perfect. This could be really good for us, Greg. Give us some breathing room financially. Sure, I said. Let's see what they offer. She kissed my cheek, settled back against my shoulder. On the TV, someone was explaining how to identify structural damage hidden behind drywall. I watched and learned. The mortgage appointment was scheduled for Thursday at 2 p.m. Jessica mentioned it again Wednesday night while folding laundry, her tone casual, domestic, the same voice she used to discuss grocery lists and parent-teacher conferences. I confirmed with the bank, she said, matching socks. Tomorrow at 2. It should only take an hour. Sounds good. I was reviewing Emma's geometry homework at the kitchen table. The Pythagorean theorem. Clean, provable, reliable. What time's your Pilates class? 10:30. I'll be back by noon. Plenty of time. Plenty of time to shower off whatever happened in apartment 7B. I nodded, made a correction to Emma's work. My handwriting looked normal. Steady. Thursday morning arrived with rain. Steady, gray. The kind that turns Lancaster into a watercolor study in concrete and muted autumn leaves. Jessica left at 10:15 in her white CR-V. I watched from the kitchen window as she pulled out of spot 4C, turned left toward the fitness center. Then I watched her circle back 3 minutes later and park in the visitor section. The efficiency of her deception was almost architectural. No wasted movement. She'd refined the process over 3 months, eliminated unnecessary variables. If I hadn't been watching specifically for it, I would have missed it entirely. My phone buzzed. David, how are you holding up? Fine, mortgage meeting is today. Remember, you're curious but supportive. Ask questions but don't challenge anything yet. We want her comfortable. Understood. I made coffee, fed Lucas breakfast, helped Emma find her biology textbook. Normal Thursday morning routines, performed with precision while my wife was 3 floors up doing things I'd stopped trying to visualize. She returned at 11:52, hair damp from a shower that hadn't happened at any Pilates studio. How was class? I asked. Good. Intense. She poured coffee. My hamstrings are gonna hate me tomorrow. The lie came so easily. No hesitation, no tell. 14 years of marriage, and I'd never noticed how good she was at this. I'm going to change before the appointment, she said. Maybe wear the blue dress? Make a good impression. Whatever you think. She went upstairs. I heard drawers opening, the sound of her moving through our bedroom, our space, our life, contaminated now by knowledge I couldn't unknow. My phone buzzed again. Not David this time. Unknown number. Mr. Whitman, this is Patricia Vance from First Heritage Bank. I need to inform you that we've discovered an issue with your scheduled appointment today. Could you call me at your earliest convenience? I stepped into the garage, closed the door, dialed. Mr. Whitman, thank you for calling back. Patricia Vance had the crisp efficiency of someone who delivered bad news professionally for years. I'm calling because we ran the preliminary credit check for your refinancing application, and there's a significant discrepancy I need to discuss. What kind of discrepancy? The application lists your property as jointly owned, but our title search shows you as the sole owner. Your wife Jessica isn't on the deed. I stopped breathing. Mr. Whitman? I'm here. There's also the matter of the equity withdrawal. The application requests $180,000 to be distributed at closing. That's roughly 60% of your current equity. Normally, we'd discuss this in person, but given the ownership issue, I wanted to reach out directly to you first. $180,000. Did my wife submit this application? I asked. A pause. Professional, careful. The application came through your wife's email, yes. She listed herself as co-owner and indicated you'd both be signing today. But Mr. Whitman, if your name is the only one on the deed, she can't legally. What would have happened if I'd just shown up and signed? Another pause, longer. If you'd signed documents claiming joint ownership when you're the sole owner, that would be mortgage fraud, a federal crime. The bank would have discovered the discrepancy during final title review, but by then you'd already be on record making false statements. The garage felt smaller, colder. Mr. Whitman, I need to ask directly. Did you know about this application? My wife mentioned wanting to refinance. She said we'd discuss details at the meeting. But you didn't submit the application yourself? No. And you weren't aware she'd claimed joint ownership or requested $180,000 in equity withdrawal? No. Silence. I could hear Patricia Vance typing. Mr. Whitman, I'm going to cancel this appointment. I'm also going to flag your property in our system to prevent any future applications without your direct verified consent. I'd strongly suggest you contact an attorney. Already done. Good. More typing. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. You're not. Thank you for calling. I hung up. Stood in the garage between Jessica's empty parking spot and my Civic. The rain drummed on the roof, steady, relentless. She'd tried to commit mortgage fraud, using my name, my property. If I'd walked into that bank unknowing, I'd have signed documents that would have made me criminally liable while she walked away with $180,000. Not just an affair, not just betrayal, Systematic destruction. I called David. The bank just called, I said. Jessica tried to forge a mortgage application, I explained. Patricia Vance. The ownership discrepancy? The $180,000. David listened without interrupting. Jesus, he said finally. Greg, this is beyond divorce territory. This is criminal fraud. I know. The bank caught it, which means there's documentation. A paper trail showing intent. This changes everything. How? In Pennsylvania, marital misconduct affects equitable distribution. Fraud, dissipation of assets, these aren't just grounds for divorce, they're grounds for you to get everything. The house, the accounts, potentially even her retirement funds if we can prove she was planning to steal marital assets. I watched rain slide down the garage window. What do I do about the appointment? Let her go. Let her show up expecting you, expecting to pull this off. When you don't arrive, she'll have to explain to the bank why you're not there. More documentation of her intent. And when she comes home asking why I didn't show. You got held up at work. Emergency meeting. You tried to call, but her phone was off. Be apologetic, concerned, suggest rescheduling. She'll know something's wrong. Maybe. But she can't confront you without revealing what she was planning. She's trapped by her own deception. I checked my watch. 12:17. Jessica was upstairs getting ready to commit a federal crime in a blue dress. David, how fast can you file? I've got everything ready. I can file tomorrow morning, have her served by end of day. Do it. You're sure? Once we file, there's no going back to strategic waiting. She tried to steal $180,000 and frame me for fraud, I'm sure. Okay, I'll prepare the filing tonight, submit first thing tomorrow. Greg, this is going to get ugly. It's already ugly, I'm just making it visible. I hung up, went back inside. Jessica was in the kitchen, wearing the blue dress, checking her makeup and her phone's camera. You look nice, I said. Thanks. She smiled. The same smile I'd seen across dinner tables and family photos on our wedding day. Ready to go? Actually, I need to run back to the office first. Project issue. I'll meet you there. Her smile faltered. Greg, the appointment's at 2. I know. I'll be there. 15 minutes, tops. Can it wait? Unfortunately not. Client emergency. I grabbed my keys. I'll text you when I'm on my way. She stood in the kitchen in her blue dress, holding her purse, and I saw the calculation happening behind her eyes. The recalibration. The adjustment to an unexpected variable. Okay, she said finally. Don't be late. I won't. I kissed her cheek. She smelled like the perfume I'd given her for Christmas. I walked out to my car, drove to the office, and at 1:58 p.m. I texted her. So sorry, meeting running long. Can you reschedule? I'll make it up to you. She didn't respond for 7 minutes. Then, it's fine, I'll handle it. I sat in my office watching the clock. At 2:34, my phone rang. Jessica. Hey, I said. I'm so sorry. They canceled the appointment. Her voice was tight. Some issue with the title search. They said they'd call us to reschedule. That's weird. What kind of issue? They wouldn't say, just that they needed to verify some information. Should I call them? No, I'll handle it. A pause. Where are you? Still at the office. This meeting's a disaster. I might be another hour. Okay, I'll see you at home. She hung up. I sat in my empty office listening to rain against the windows and wondered what she was thinking right now. If she knew it was over. If she was calling apartment 7B, explaining that the plan had failed. If she was scared. My phone buzzed. David. Filing first thing tomorrow. 8 a.m. She'll be served at home by 5 p.m. Thank you. Get some rest tonight. Tomorrow changes everything. I drove home through rain that had turned Lancaster into a study in gray. Jessica's CRV was in spot 4C. Lights were on in our apartment. I could hear Lucas's cartoons through the door. Normal life. One last evening of normal life. I went inside. The papers were served on Thursday morning at 9:23 a.m. I know because I was sitting in my car in the Caldwell Engineering parking lot, phone in hand, when David's paralegal, a woman named Kelly something, texted me a photo. Jessica, standing in our doorway in her gray yoga pants and oversized Penn State sweatshirt, holding a manila envelope. Her face wasn't visible in the shot, just her hands and the envelope in the doorframe I'd repainted last spring. Service complete, the text read. Client copy in mail. I sat there for 11 minutes, watched the second hand sweep around my watch face, thought about nothing, thought about everything. Then I drove to work. The morning passed in the usual way. Budget review meeting at 10. Site inspection reports at 11. Lunch at my desk. Turkey sandwich from the deli downstairs, same as every Thursday. My phone stayed silent. I'd half expected it to detonate, to light up with calls and texts and rage, but it just sat there next to my keyboard, black and inert. At 2:15 it finally buzzed. We need to talk. 3 words. No punctuation. I stared at them for 30 seconds, then typed back, I'll be home at 5:30. The response came immediately. Now. I'm at work. I don't care. I looked at the message, at the screen, at my reflection in the dark glass. 5:30, I typed again, and turned the phone face down. It buzzed 4 more times in the next hour. I didn't look. I pulled into my parking spot at 5:34 p.m. The October sun was already low, casting long shadows across the lot. Jessica's CRV sat in its usual space, perfectly centered between the lines. Everything looked normal, ordinary, like any other Thursday evening in any other October. The elevator ride to the 4th floor took 43 seconds. I counted. The apartment door was unlocked. I walked in to find Jessica sitting at the kitchen table, the divorce papers spread out in front of her like evidence at a crime scene. She'd been crying. Her eyes were red, mascara smudged. But she wasn't crying now. Now she just looked angry. 14 years, she said. Not hello, not how could you, just that. I set my briefcase down by the door, hung my jacket on the hook. Normal motions, normal evening. Where are the kids? Emma's at Kayla's house. Lucas is at my mother's. Her voice was flat, controlled. Don't change the subject. I'm not changing anything. I'm asking where our children are. You want to talk about our children? After this? She gestured at the papers. Her hand was shaking. You're trying to take them from me. I walked to the refrigerator, got a bottle of water, opened it, drank. The cold helped. Gave me something to focus on besides the woman sitting at my kitchen table, the woman I'd slept beside for 14 years, the woman who'd become a stranger sometime between June and October. I'm asking for primary custody, I said. That's not the same as taking them. It's exactly the same. She stood up. Greg, we can fix this. Whatever you think, I don't think anything. I know. The words landed between us like stones. She went very still. What do you know? I could have said it then. Could have laid it all out. The iPad, the messages, the photos, apartment 7B, all of it. But David's voice was in my head. Don't show your cards until you're ready to play them. I know you tried to refinance our house without telling me. Her face changed. Not shock, something else. Calculation, maybe. She was trying to figure out what I knew and what I didn't. How much damage control she needed. That was going to be a surprise, she said. For your birthday. I was going to… Don't. Don't what? Don't lie to me. I set the water bottle down. Not now, not about this. I'm not lying. I wanted to renovate the kitchen and I thought, you applied for a cash-out refinance, $180,000. You listed yourself as a co-owner when you're not on the deed. The bank flagged it as potential fraud. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. That's not... I didn't... She stopped. Started over. Who told you that? The bank. They called me to verify the application. This was a lie, but it was a useful lie. Better than admitting I'd been monitoring her email, her accounts, her digital life. I was going to tell you, she said. I just wanted to make sure it went through first. Make sure what went through? The fraud? It wasn't fraud. I live here. I'm your wife. I have a right. You have no legal claim to this house. Zero. It was purchased before we married, with my inheritance in my name only. You know this. She stared at me. I could see her recalculating, trying to find a new angle. So that's it? She said. One mistake and you're throwing away our entire marriage? One mistake. I said it quietly. Let it hang there. Her eyes narrowed. What does that mean? It means I'm done, Jessica, with all of it. With all of what? I didn't answer. Just looked at her. Let her wonder. She sat back down, put her face in her hands. When she looked up again, tears were streaming down her cheeks. Real ones, maybe. Or maybe not. I couldn't tell any more. Didn't know if I'd ever been able to tell. Please, she said. Greg, please. We can go to counseling. We can work this out. I made a mistake with the refinance thing, I admit it, but that doesn't mean I want you out of the house by Monday. Her head snapped up. What? You heard me. Monday. You can stay with your mother, or wherever. You can't kick me out. This is my home. It's my house, legally, and I'm not kicking you out. I'm asking you to leave temporarily while we work out the details. You can fight it if you want, but my attorney says I'm well within my rights to request that the non-titled spouse vacate during divorce proceedings, especially given the attempted fraud. I'd practiced this speech in my car, in the shower, in my head during meetings. It came out smooth, professional, like I was discussing a construction timeline instead of dismantling my life. I'm not leaving my children. They'll stay with me during the week. You can have them on weekends, supervised. Supervised? Her voice went shrill. You think I'm a danger to my own kids? I think we need clear boundaries while this gets sorted out. She stood up again, paced to the window. Stood there with her back to me, shoulders rigid. This is insane, she said to the glass. You're being insane. Maybe. She turned around. Is there someone else? Is that what this is? I almost laughed. Almost. The audacity of it. The sheer, breathtaking audacity. No, I said. There's no one else. Then why? Why are you doing this? I looked at her. Really looked at her. Tried to see the woman I'd married. The woman who'd stood beside me at the altar in that little church in Harrisburg. The woman who'd held my hand in the delivery room, twice. Tried to find her in this stranger's face. She wasn't there. Maybe she never had been. Because I deserve better, I said. The words surprised me. Not because they weren't true, they were, but because I'd never said them out loud before. Never let myself think them. Jessica's face crumpled. Greg, I'll sleep in the guest room tonight. Tomorrow you can start packing. I want you gone by Monday morning. And if I refuse? Then my attorney files for an emergency custody order and a restraining order. Your choice. I walked past her, toward the stairs. She grabbed my arm. Wait, just wait. Can we at least talk about this? I looked down at her hand on my sleeve. At the wedding ring still on her finger. At the French manicure she'd gotten on Tuesday morning, probably right after her Pilates class that wasn't a Pilates class. There's nothing to talk about, I said, and pulled away. I was halfway up the stairs when she called after me. I know you know. I stopped. Didn't turn around. About what? Silence. Then, you know. I stood there, one hand on the railing, and felt something shift. the pretense falling away, the mask coming off. Yeah, I said. I know. How long? Does it matter? It matters to me. I turned around. She was standing at the bottom of the stairs looking up at me, and for the first time since I'd walked in, she looked genuinely afraid. Since Tuesday, I said, the day I found your messages. Her face went white. Greg, I can explain. I don't want your explanations. I want you out of my house. It's not what you think. It never is. I continued up the stairs. Behind me, I heard her start to cry. Great, heaving sobs that echoed through the stairwell. Part of me wanted to go back, to comfort her, to hold her, to make it better. 14 years of conditioning, of being her husband, of fixing things. But I kept walking. The guest room was small, barely furnished. A double bed, a dresser, a lamp. I sat on the edge of the mattress and finally let myself shake. My phone buzzed. A text from David. How'd it go? She knows I know, I typed back. Moving out Monday. Good. Don't engage further. Document everything. Will do. I set the phone aside. Lay back on the unfamiliar bed. Stared at the unfamiliar ceiling. Downstairs, Jessica was still crying. I closed my eyes and waited for morning. The weekend stretched like a minefield. Jessica stayed upstairs most of Saturday, her door closed. I heard her on the phone several times. Low, urgent conversations that stopped abruptly when footsteps approached. The kids noticed but didn't ask. Emma retreated to her room with headphones. Lucas built increasingly elaborate Lego structures on the living room floor, his usual chatter replaced by focused silence. Sunday morning, I made pancakes. Lucas came down first, rubbing his eyes. Where's Mom? Upstairs. She'll be down soon. She wasn't. By noon, I'd fed both kids, cleaned the kitchen, and started a load of laundry. Normal Sunday tasks, performed with mechanical precision. Emma appeared briefly, grabbed a granola bar, and disappeared again. At 2:15 p.m., Jessica's door opened. I heard her descend the stairs slowly, deliberately. When she entered the kitchen, she was dressed for leaving. Jeans, sweater, her good coat over one arm. I need to talk to you. I was loading the dishwasher, didn't turn around. Okay. Not here, outside. That made me look at her. Her face was composed, makeup carefully applied. She'd taken time with her appearance. The observation filed itself away with all the others. We went to the back patio. October air, sharp and clean. She stood near the railing, arms crossed. I'm not leaving tomorrow. I waited. I talked to a lawyer. He says you can't force me out of the house. It's my home too, regardless of whose name is on the deed. I have rights. You committed fraud trying to steal equity from property you don't own. I made a mistake. I panicked. But that doesn't mean I have to leave my children. The word choice was interesting. Not our children. My children. David said you'd try this. Her expression tightened. Your lawyer doesn't dictate what happens in my marriage. This isn't a marriage anymore. You ended that when you... I stopped, kept my voice level. You're served. The process is in motion. You can stay or go, but either way, the outcome is the same. You don't know that. I do, actually. I have documentation of everything. The messages, the credit card, the attempted fraud, all of it. She flinched. Small movement, quickly controlled. Who are you? She asked quietly. This cold, calculating person. This isn't you. The absurdity of it almost made me laugh. You're right. The person I was would have believed you when you said you had Pilates. Would have trusted you completely. That person doesn't exist anymore. Greg, I'm going inside. You can stay or go. Your choice. But tomorrow morning, I'm changing the locks on my house. If you're here, you'll get a key. If you're not, you won't. Either way, I'm documenting everything that happens from this point forward. I left her standing there. Inside, Lucas had abandoned his Legos and was watching cartoons. I sat beside him on the couch. He leaned against me without speaking, his small weight warm and solid. On screen, animated characters chased each other through impossible landscapes. The theme song played. Lucas didn't sing along. Jessica came in 20 minutes later. She went straight upstairs without looking at us. That night, I lay in the guest room, my room now, and ran through scenarios. David had been clear. Document everything. Maintain composure. Don't engage in emotional arguments. Let her make mistakes. Let her reveal herself. The phone on my nightstand buzzed. Text from David. How's the weekend? She says she's not leaving. Consulted a lawyer. Expected. Don't force it. Let her stay if she wants. Better for your case if she's the one who abandons the children. She won't do that. You'd be surprised what people do when they're cornered. Stay the course. I set the phone down. Stared at the ceiling. The house was quiet except for the furnace cycling on. The familiar sounds of home. Everything the same. Everything different. Monday morning arrived with gray skies and the smell of rain. I was up at 6, showered and dressed before anyone else stirred. Made coffee, checked email. Caldwell Engineering had a project review at 10. Normal work, continuing. Jessica appeared at 7:30. She'd dressed for work. Her version of work, anyway. Comfortable clothes, minimal makeup, work-from-home attire. I'm staying, she said. Okay. That's it? Okay? What do you want me to say? She opened her mouth. Closed it. Shook her head and went to pour coffee. Emma came down next, backpack already on her shoulder. Can you drive me to school? Sure. Lucas too? He's still asleep. Jessica turned from the counter. I can take you, honey. Emma looked at her, then at me. Dad's already driving. The silence that followed had weight. Jessica's hand tightened on her coffee mug. Okay, she said quietly. I drove Emma to school. She was silent most of the way, staring out the window. As we pulled up to the drop-off lane, she spoke. Are you and Mom getting divorced? My hands stayed steady on the wheel. Yes. Because she cheated on you. Not a question. I glanced at her. She was still looking out the window. How did you? I'm not stupid. I can hear you guys. And Mom's been weird for months. She grabbed her backpack. I'm not a kid anymore, Dad. You don't have to protect me from the truth. She got out before I could respond. I watched her walk toward the building, shoulders straight, head up. 13 years old and already learning that the people you trust most can lie to your face. The project review at Caldwell went smoothly. I presented timeline updates, budget projections, risk assessments. My team asked questions. I answered them. Professional competence maintained through personal catastrophe. Assess, document, solve. Afterward, my supervisor, Kevin Walsh, stopped by my office. Good presentation. You okay? Fine. Why? You seem, I don't know, different, focused, but somewhere else. Just dealing with some personal stuff. Nothing that affects work. He nodded slowly. If you need time off, I don't. Work is good, keeps me busy. He accepted that and left. I turned back to my computer and opened the shared drive folder David had set up. Secure, encrypted, everything documented. New email from the bank. Subject line, refinance application status. Dear Mr. Whitman, following our previous communication regarding the fraudulent refinance application submitted on your property, we have completed our internal investigation. The application has been permanently denied and flagged in our system. We have also filed a report with the appropriate authorities as required by law. If you need documentation of this incident for legal purposes, please contact our fraud department directly. We apologize for any inconvenience this matter has caused. I forwarded it to David. His response came within minutes. Perfect. This strengthens everything. How's she acting? Staying in the house, trying to maintain normalcy. Let her. The longer she stays while served, the better it looks for you. You're the stable parent maintaining the home. I closed the email and pulled up the project schedule. Normal work, normal day. Except nothing was normal anymore. I left the office at 5:15 and stopped at the grocery store. Milk, bread, eggs, chicken for dinner. Poster board. Emma's science project was due Friday. The mundane tasks of domestic life performed solo now. Jessica used to do the shopping, used to plan meals, used to be a partner. When I got home, her car was in its spot, lights on in the kitchen. I carried the groceries in through the garage. She was at the stove, stirring something in a pot. Pasta sauce, from the smell. I'm making dinner, she said without turning around. Okay. The kids need to eat. I know. She turned then, wooden spoon in hand. We can't keep doing this, living like strangers. We are strangers. I don't know who you are anymore. I'm the same person I've always been. No, you're someone who lies, who steals, who... I set the grocery bags on the counter. I'm not doing this. Make dinner or don't. I don't care. I went upstairs. Lucas's door was open, his room a disaster of Legos and action figures. He was on his bed, reading a comic book. Hey, buddy. He looked up. Hi, Dad. Homework done? Don't have any. Want to help me with something? His face brightened. What? I need to organize the garage. Could use an assistant. We spent an hour in the garage, sorting tools and moving boxes. Lucas chattered about school, about his friend Tyler's new video game, about the science experiment his class did with vinegar and baking soda. Normal kid talk, safe territory. When Jessica called us for dinner, we went in together. The meal was silent except for Lucas's occasional comments. Emma picked at her food. Jessica ate mechanically, her attention somewhere else. I focused on my plate. Afterward, I cleaned up while Jessica disappeared upstairs again. Emma helped me load the dishwasher. Dad? Yeah? Where are we going to live? After? Here, this is our home. What about Mom? I don't know yet. That's for the lawyers to figure out. She nodded, processing. Okay. That night, lying in the guest room again, I heard Jessica's footsteps in the hallway. They paused outside my door. I waited, muscles tense. She didn't knock. After a moment, the footsteps continued. Her door closed. I picked up my phone and opened the documentation folder. Added notes from the day. Emma's question about divorce. Jessica's attempt at normalcy. The email from the bank. Everything recorded, everything preserved. The physics of betrayal are interesting. Action and reaction. Cause and effect. She'd set events in motion months ago. Now momentum carried us all forward, inevitable as gravity. I set the phone aside and closed my eyes. Tomorrow, I'd do it all again. 6 months later, I stood in the empty living room of what was now legally, unquestionably, mine. The divorce finalized on a Tuesday in March. Fitting somehow that it ended on the same day of the week it had begun. Judge Patricia Hendricks had reviewed the evidence with the kind of methodical precision I recognized from my own work. The messages, the credit card statements, the attempted fraud, all of it laid out in chronological order. Jessica's attorney, a tired-looking man named Robert Klein, had tried to argue for reconciliation, for counseling, for a more equitable split. The judge wasn't interested. Mrs. Whitman, she'd said, peering over her reading glasses, you committed adultery, attempted to defraud your husband through mortgage fraud, and showed a pattern of financial deception spanning months. This court sees no reason to reward that behavior. The settlement gave me the house, primary custody of Emma and Lucas, and 70% of our liquid assets. Jessica kept her car, her retirement account, and weekend visitation rights. She'd moved in with her mother in Harrisburg by February, after it became clear that staying in the apartment was untenable. The kids saw her every other weekend. Sometimes she showed up, sometimes she didn't. Apartment 7B turned out to be a 34-year-old pharmaceutical sales rep named Brian Caldwell. No relation to my employer, just an unfortunate coincidence. He'd moved out in December, lease broken early, after I'd mentioned to the building manager that I was concerned about suspicious activity on the 7th floor. I never spoke to him, never confronted him. He simply disappeared, the way problems do when you apply the right pressure to the right points. Emma adjusted better than I'd expected. She'd been angry at first, at me, at Jessica, at the situation. But teenagers are resilient in ways adults forget. She threw herself into school, made honor roll, joined the debate team. Sometimes I caught her looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Not pity, something closer to respect. Lucas struggled more. He was young enough that the details stayed vague, but old enough to know his family had broken. He had nightmares for a while. Started seeing a counselor, a kind woman named Dr. Patricia Vance. No relation to the bank employee, another coincidence in a world that seemed full of them. The nightmares eventually stopped. David sent me the final bill in April. I paid it without looking at the amount. Some things are worth whatever they cost. Now it was late September, nearly a year since I'd found those messages on Emma's iPad. The apartment was quiet. The kids were at Jessica's for the weekend, one of the times she'd actually followed through. I was packing boxes, preparing for the move. I'd bought a house in a better school district, 4 bedrooms, a yard for Lucas, space for Emma to have friends over. A place with no memories of betrayal. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mr. Whitman? This is Brian Caldwell. I went very still. I know we've never met, he continued, his voice nervous, rushed. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I needed to call. I needed to tell you I'm sorry. I said nothing. I didn't know she was married at first. She said she was separated, that you were abusive, that she was afraid. By the time I figured out the truth, He stopped. That's not an excuse. There's no excuse. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, for whatever that's worth. It's worth nothing, I said quietly. I know. I needed to say it. Don't call this number again. I hung up. The box I'd been packing sat half full on the floor. Old photos from before. Jessica and me at Penn State. Our wedding. Emma as a baby. Lucas learning to walk. I'd been planning to throw them away, but now I picked one up. Our wedding photo, both of us young and smiling, convinced we knew what forever meant. I put it back in the box, sealed the lid. Wrote kids, family photos on top in black marker. Not for me, for them. Someday, Emma and Lucas might want to remember that their parents had loved each other once, even if it hadn't lasted. Someday they might need to know that the failure wasn't inevitable, wasn't predestined. That people make choices, and choices have consequences, but that doesn't erase what came before. Or maybe they'd throw the box away themselves. That was their right. I finished packing as the sun set over Lancaster. The apartment was nearly empty now, just furniture and echoes. In 2 weeks, I'd hand over the keys and drive to the new house, the new life. Emma had already picked out paint colors for her room. Lucas wanted a basketball hoop in the driveway. We'd be okay, not the same. Not what I'd planned. But okay. My phone buzzed one last time. Text from David. Heard from Klein today. Jessica's asking about modifying the custody arrangement. Wants more time with the kids. I typed back, what are the grounds? She's in a better place now, more stable. Thinks she deserves another chance. I looked around the empty apartment. Thought about second chances, about what people deserve versus what they've earned. Tell him we'll discuss it in 6 months. If she maintains consistent visitation and stays current on her obligations, I'm willing to revisit. You're being generous. I'm being a father. The kids need to know their mother, even if I don't. I sent the message and put the phone away. The truth is, I didn't win. Neither did Jessica. In the mathematics of divorce, there are no winners, just different configurations of loss. But I'd protected my children, preserved my integrity, and maintained my dignity. I'd looked at the structural failure of my marriage, and instead of letting it collapse on top of me, I dismantled it piece by piece, carefully, methodically, until I could walk away from the rubble. That wasn't winning, but it was surviving. And sometimes survival is enough. I turned off the lights and locked the door behind me. The hallway was quiet. Apartment 7B was dark, empty, waiting for new tenants who'd have no idea what had happened there. The building would go on. Other families would move in, live their lives, have their own dramas and betrayals and small redemptions. The world doesn't stop for your pain. It just keeps turning, indifferent and relentless, and you either turn with it or get left behind. I chose to turn. Outside, the September air was cool and clean. I got in my car. I'd traded the Explorer for a newer SUV, something practical for the new house, and drove toward tomorrow. Behind me, Riverside Terrace receded in the rearview mirror. Ahead, the road stretched out into darkness and possibility. I didn't look back.